The 6th of July 2025. You're welcome back to Real True Education, Not Fake News. This video is made for YouTube. From now on, I'll be doing at least 30% of my videos will be Rumble. And please find out from the links underneath, and I'll be linking them all. Get to know the two. I'm now on 2 channels, and I'll also be on X. So I can't put all my eggs in the one basket anymore. I'm calling on YouTube to make contact with me to understand how it comes about that I am prevented and forbidden making any video about COVID-19 and its aftermath, whereas other channels, YouTube channels like Eddie Hobbs, who I have no problem with, is allowed to talk openly about it. Why is there one law for me and one law for Eddie, and there's several others there? So clearly they have a vendetta against me, and I have to try and get out from under this. I must never be left in a situation again where I can't contact my subscribers. So please learn about the 2 systems. There are 2 different channels, all videos made for independently, no crossover. For now anyway, McGregor and Carey. I want to deal with 2 topical issues at the moment. Conor McGregor was somewhere in the company of Nikita Hand, and she alleges he raped her, forcibly had sex with her, but she didn't report it instantly or within a reasonable time. And that's a point of the common law and the law of Ireland and England, that a woman is expected to report rapes fairly soon because of the trouble with false reports. The quicker it's reported, the quicker forensic evidence is gathered up, the quicker the witnesses are got, and the more accurate the witnesses will be. I have known cases of rapes reported to me when I was in the Garda Síochána, and I got samples of the accused fairly quick, and samples from the woman fairly quick, and samples of the material that was on her underwear, and it turned out to be somebody else. She was lying in that particular case. Now I'm talking about a separate case. There's nothing to do with Nikita Hand. In the McGregor case, Nikita Hand went to the guards afterwards when all the evidence was unobtainable, when it was gone a bit cold, as to say, and the longer it goes on, the less the chance of a successful prosecution. Anyway, the file was done for criminal rape against the people, not against Miss Hand, against the people. Crimes are against the state and the people. Civil actions are between the parties. So anyway, it went to the DPP afterwards, based on her word, and the DPP said he would not prosecute. Same as in my case. Why? Because it was too late. The evidence wasn't good enough to support a criminal prosecution where there has to be strong evidence. Then she sued McGregor, and there was a civil case, and reports in the media, and they're in RTE, that he was convicted of a civil case is lies. That's a lie. You can't be convicted of a civil case. The jury made a finding. That's all. So they lie all the time. The media are liars. That's that. There's no more we can do about that. So the thing is, anyway, she was awarded by a jury €250,000 with a jury, and the government is now looking at, in the case of some defamations, of taking out the jury altogether. But be it that as may, she was awarded by the jury with money, claiming that he raped her, and he denied it, and that's between them and the jury, and I'm not going there. But I want to explain what then happened. McGregor appealed to the Court of Appeal, I'd say it wasn't to the Supreme Court, to the Court of Appeal, and he appealed on general matters. That's before the court and still before the court. But there was another 2 people whom he brought forward, and they claimed that they heard rackets going on between Nikita Hand and some other person. I think it was a man or some other friend, and that there was violent exchanges, and therefore she could have got the injuries from that incident rather than from the incident with McGregor, because she had some evidence or some doctor's report that there was marks on her after the alleged rape with McGregor, and he was putting forward the case that that it could have been this other man. So these 2 people came forward. I think it's a man and a woman. But the point is, in a criminal case, you make a statement of evidence to the Gardai. If you tell lies, you can be prosecuted under a special law for criminal cases. But they can't do that in a civil case. They made affidavits. Sworn before a commissioner of oaths. And in those affidavits, they said something or other. I presume it was that they heard this racket. I don't know. But the point is, they made these and they swore them. And they were put before the court and they were coming up for this hearing. And at that hearing, these two people would have been expected to come out and give their evidence and be examined under oath. There wouldn't be a jury now. This would be before a judge who was going to check the way that how well the original trial with a jury was done and was there any flaws in it. And this would be new evidence which he was entitled to bring in and which the court allowed him to bring in. But it appears just before the court, the two witnesses balked. They decided they would not go forward and be examined in the court. That left the rest of the case still running. But the judge was then faced with a situation where these two affidavits were here and these people wouldn't give evidence. And the judge has talked about referring it to the DPP. Now, actually, the correct court for the judge, as he'll find out, is it'll be referred to the Gardai. I was often in that position. It's the Gardai who are the investigating officer, and only the Gardai in most cases. Now, there are circumstances where the DPP can take evidence from other people, health board cases and things like that. But in the case of a criminal offence, my view is it's only the Gardaí can investigate. So they would normally go out and interview the people and see how true this is. But the key to it is to see how true the affidavit is, and if there is lies or falsehoods, they are sworn under oath before a commissioner for oaths. Then the guards will send it to the local state solicitor. The local state solicitor can send it to the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Director of Public Prosecutions will decide if a criminal case can be taken. Now, they didn't go up and swear in the court, as far as I understand. Now, bear in mind, I'm just going with newspaper reports. They put forward their affidavits. So that's what's before the court. A lot of people are asking me that. But those two witnesses are effectively gone. I mean, they're not going to come back now. They didn't give their evidence when they were to do it. Now, you'd have to ask the question why, and I'd say the reason is they weren't prepared to be cross-examined when it hardly came to hardly. As to say, the witness box is a lonely place. I never found it lonely, but there was a party for a man retiring, and I wasn't that heavy of a drinker, but we went on a tear the night before, and I was sick in the court, and I was being cross-examination, and I was afraid I'd throw up. The only time I ever felt under pressure, I actually felt I was going to throw up in the court. I never forget it. It was before Judge Matt Deary in Cavan Court. Lucky enough, I survived. I was still drunk. It wasn't deliberate. The man happened to be retiring that day, and we went out for a drink, or the next day, or whatever it was. You know, it just happened that the two things were at the same time. So we've dealt with that anyway. That's what's the situation with McGregor. McGregor can now go on and have the judge hear the rest of it, and the judge can either confirm it, increase it, or decrease it. We'll have to wait and see. It doesn't look too good for McGregor, I have to say. Now, Kerry. Now, there's a woman, Kerry, involved in something. I don't know what that is, but is he DJ Kerry? He's the Kilkenny sports person, footballer or hurler. I don't know which, but he's a Kilkenny man. But anyway, he had a relationship with a lady, and they were a decent lady, and they were living in the K Club down in Kildare, and must have been in the hotel or whatever. And I don't know what he was doing for money or whatever, but he claimed he's a very popular fellow, suddenly contracted cancer, and he needed serious treatment, and he solicited loads of money. We'll hear how much later on, hundreds of thousands of pounds from innocent people who thought they'd help him and maybe do a bit of investment or whatever, but it was all a scam. The whole thing was a lie. He hadn't any cancer at all. But this girlfriend of his discovered he was doing this early on. I think she had some friend had cancer, some personal issue with that. But anyway, she discovered that he was a fraud, that this was all a way of getting money of people due to his popularity. And she says in today's paper, it's in the Irish Independent, she reported it to the Gardai. And nothing was done. That appears to be the case. Now, in my time in An Garda Síochána, that would have been investigated within straight away. And we were often under serious pressure. That file would be sent out and you'd have to investigate it. And they'd be trying to get you to do it for nothing. And I'd always try and get a few bob for myself and me men, or me women. I had women working with me too. But there'd be a team sent out and I'd be explaining to them what they had to do. And I'd explain to them before they go out. Now, when you go out, look for this, this and this. And they knew the law inside out. I knew the law back to front. They'd be ringing me from all over the country. I'd be dodging the phone. But for my own staff, I would always be helping them with the law. And there was other sergeants would do the same, it has to be said. And indeed, there's still some in the country. But there is a trend now that the Gardaí only investigate two types of crime. That's serious crimes like rape or attacks on young children, sexual offences, young people and that. And the like of this rape, they'll investigate that. Murder. But then the other category is the two-tier. If they're of a certain category, which YouTube will probably ban me if I'll tell you, right? But essentially, if they're new into the country from some place, they get full extra. They get full treatment. The Garda Síochána is told, you pursue the slightest complaint by any of these protected people or people who are recently into the country, no matter who they are, what they have done, the Irishman must be jailed, full stop. So that's what happens there. But if it's the other way about, don't bother your head. But it's even the same between Irish people. Now, I knew a scenes of crime examiner told me about 2017. I happened to meet him somewhere, and he was a scene of crime. And in scene of crimes, when you go to do a scene, you're doing fingerprints and all that, you'd nearly know the track of the hatchet of who done what. And usually the scene of crime man would tell me or whatever, and we'd go and investigate. Or the local station would investigate or get a bit of help from a detective. That's gone. That man told me that to him. You might as well be idle as saying that Joe Goggy, Woggy, Moggy, Moggy from Corner Froggy broke into that old lady there and took all her money and give her a few clouts across the ear. They won't investigate it. That is a sad situation. And I think the reason is there isn't the skill. I seen there today in some of the news things, 76 guards were let in without any vetting at all. There is a dysfunction at the heart of Irish public life, and it extends into the guards. It's not just the guards, it's everything. We had an opportunity on the 29th of November last year to put in some sensible people and elect them, and they refused. They went in the same old thing. Nee, Smith, I love that haircut. Oh, it's lovely. She's a lovely hairdo now. And Brendan Smith, oh, fantastic man. And, Robert or what do you call him, David Maxwell. And the two, Matt Carty and Pauline Tully. That's it. There's no such thing as talking about crime investigation or trying to bring a bit of sense into the Garda Síochána or restore some of the good. It was a great force like at one time, there's no doubt, but it's gone to blazes. So because she alleges in today's paper, she told the guards and she was wasting her sweetness on the desert air, and because of that, he was allowed to rip off lots and lots of innocent people with scams or whatever. Don't ask me. I wouldn't bother me head reading how he scammed people. Now, I would have no sympathy for people scammed into a fraud business, but I would have sympathy for people who would give money to help anyone in a medical emergency and be scammed. That's a dirty act to do. I'd have sympathy there. My father used to say scam artists should get a medal. They shouldn't be put to jail. But there's plenty of these going on. So that's the story. Now there's another case in the local paper. Sean McKiernan, a councillor in Bailieborough, he used to be going up for the council, and I went up one year, and he was there pontificating on Channelside Northern Sound about old what's this he was on about? The elderly and special needs and all that sort of stuff. Care. And they were all, and when I'd say about the windmills was a scam, go away you. But he was at this, but he ripped million. No, I don't know how much. I think it's $250,000 or a big amount of money. Sean McKiernan. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts in the courts the other day of fraud. So, where would you be going? They voted for him religiously for Fine Gael as a councillor in East Cavan. They voted for the other Jalubas. Now, I'm not for a minute saying that any of the Fianna Fáil, or Fine Gael or Sinn Féin TDs in Cavan are crooks, but they're idiots and they're not capable of doing nothing, and they love them with all of their hearts. And there's the result. There's no police force. If an old person or the people who now grow a bit old are attacked in their homes, there's no guards to investigate it. I understand that in Cavan and Monaghan, the superintendent in charge of crime is in Drogheda. That they have some harebrained, mad scheme. If anybody wants to drop me a note, Val Martin Kingscourt, just don't sign it or type it out and post it to me. We'll see. I believe it's so bizarre it'll take me a week to get under the system to have. But it is sad that there's no investigation of crime. I mean, when a police force stops investigating crime, it's kind of lost the plot, really. And imagine they have to get rid of these recruits because they didn't pass the test, and there's a shortage of guards, and nobody wants to join the guards because they know they're going into a mess. And Drew Harris is a bad commissioner. He has been all right in some serious crimes, but generally speaking, in his administration of the guards and providing something encouraging for young recruits, he's a failure in that regard. That's a sad situation. And I know well, and I've done several videos on it, young people don't want to join it because they have a commitment then, and they'll be in it 12 years when some awful injustice is imposed on them. And everything, once they get the guards in, it's, oh, I have a fella for that job there. Oh, there's a job there. I remember one time, and that's years ago, I was up in County Dublin, in outside of the city, and another division had to come and escort the mail vans, those escorting money, and they had to come in and escort them right through my area. And the superintendent wanted a new detective, and he had a good lad in mind who was a good old worker, a good guard, very decent chap, and he was fit and able, and he could shoot. He He wasn't a great shot, but he was good enough to carry a gun and pass all the firearms tests. So the superintendent thought he had him all lined up, and he more or less told the rest of the lads, your man is the man. And we all understood, and he was the most entitled to it. So there was only the one application in. Begorra, the day before it went in, didn't another lad in the division put in an application, and he was from an area where there was, in the southwest of Ireland, where there was a very well-known Fianna Fáil politician with whom he happened to go to school with. And he put in his application, and the superintendent was dumbfounded. This lad's no good. He was an awkward kind of a man, and he wasn't good at investigating or anything. He had little cop on. But he got the job, and the super, he looked for a detective, and he ended up with a lad that couldn't do anything. He wasn't fit to investigate. I think he couldn't drive. I think there had to be another guard put with him to drive, but I can tell you, he couldn't shoot because he got me to give him advice on how to shoot. Now, I didn't go shooting with him, but I think I went down to somewhere with a rifle or something, maybe a 2.2 or something. But we give him a bit of help anyway. But he never could pass. He did the test 8 or 9 times. And he told me on one, there was a fellow with him, and he told me that he was that bad that there was a big wall, and when he'd be shooting, the bullets was going over the wall, and they were afraid to land somewhere in the town. You know, there was a big high wall, maybe 25 foot high. But instead of shooting this way, this is what he was at. You know, he was that bad of a shot that he couldn't pass. That is how political interference happened at that time. But anyway, that's still going on a certain amount, and it's detrimental. It's a mess. Living in Ireland now, you have to take into account, do you have a police force at all? And then, of course, they're bringing in all you-know-whos, from all over the place, packing them in, and wait till they get going, and no police force. What will happen in the end, of course, we'll have a police force rooted in Pakistan and with things on their heads and all sorts of Zulu warriors and all out in the Gardai, and they'll not have much time for you or I can tell you. So that's the way it's gone. It's a great pity. I hope I've explained that now to you fairly well about the current situation without naming anybody and what it is, because a lot of people can't understand those basic principles. You have criminal law, the proof has to be beyond reasonable doubt, and you have civil law, the balance of probability. Okay, that'll do. The next one now I'll make for Rumble, and we'll see. It'll be about something else. Hopefully that clarifies that. Bye bye. Thank you.